Good evening. I'm John Alfieri, Mayor of the Town Village of East Rochester, and I'm back to update each of you on this current situation facing all of us, COVID-19. Through these videos and our website, I want to continue to provide residents and business owners with updates on what East Rochester is doing to assist during this time. The New York State deadline for social distancing has been extended by Governor Cuomo until April 15th, and the federal guidelines have been extended by President Trump until April 30th. This means we have a way to go. I would like to remind all of you that social distancing is critical to the success of slowing and controlling this COVID-19 virus. Please keep your children off the playground equipment and away from gathering in our parks. The public restrooms at Edmund Lyon and Ayer Park are officially closed to protect the community and our Town Village employees. The rims and nets on all basketball courts have been removed. We have not officially closed the parks to allow those who wish to walk, exercise, and walk your dogs the opportunity to do so. We realize that to enforce such a measure would be unrealistic. Our parks are not fenced or gated. Enforcement would be nearly impossible, and our police department needs to be ready to respond to true emergencies. I'm asking parents of our youth to please help us enforce this. As all New York State residents, we are required to take a 100% pause. And what does this mean for each of you? Only those essential employees that need to be at work or out in the community can, and all others need to stay home. This is to flatten the curve and slow the spread of this virus. We want to protect our residents and our staff, and we have taken measures to do so. Please be reminded that the April 2020 bulk week scheduled for April 13th to 17th has been canceled. Also, spring parking restrictions that normally end on April 15th have been lifted as of today. These changes to continue to be out of an abundance of caution for our families, businesses, and visitors. Please restrict your travel for needs of food, gas, and medicine, and use social distancing whenever possible. Keep children occupied and out of public places without adult supervision. We are evaluating the situation on a day-to-day basis, and plans are subject to change at a moment's notice. Please visit www.eastrochester.org and watch the local news for additional updates as they become available. Social media sites such as ERCN are not official websites and will not be updated when information changes. We're asking all of you to please stay home, stop the spread, and save lives. Thank you, and God bless you.
My heart is crying. I'm just lonesome as I can be. My heart is crying. I'm just lonesome as I can be. I can't escape from the state of mind because blue just won't let me be. I ain't got nobody to tell my troubles to. My back up against the wall, and it's all because of you. My heart is crying. I'm just as lonesome as I can be. I'm in a fucking situation because the blues just won't let me be. My telephone don't ring no more. My friends don't stop by. Ain't no letters in my mailbox. Every time you say goodbye, my heart is crying. I'm just as lonesome as I can be. I'm in a bad situation because the blues just won't set me free. People always say that every life is a rainbow song, but I'm drowning in a flood, and that ain't no fun at all. My heart is crying. I'm just lonesome. Still quicksand because the blues just won't set me free. song they call Stagger Lee. The night was clear and the moon was yellow and the leaves came tumbling down. I was standing on the corner when I heard my bulldog bark. He was barking at the two men who were gambling in the dark. It was Stagger Lee and Billy, two men who gamble late. Stagger Lee threw 7 and Billy 4 that he threw 8. Stagger Lee and Billy, you know I ain't going for that. You won all of my money and my brand new Cadillac. Stagger Lee, he went home and he got his 44. Said I'm going to the barroom just to pay that debt I owe. Stagger Lee went to the barroom and he stood across the barroom door. They don't nobody move and they pulled his 44. Stagger Lee and cried Billy, oh please don't take my life. I got 3 little children and a very single wife. All right. Stagger Lee cried Billy, oh please don't take my life. I got 3 little children and a very single little wife. Stagger Lee, he shot Billy, oh he shot that poor boy so fast. Till the bullets came through Billy and he broke the bartender's glass. John Carlo on the piano.
I'll call the meeting of the town board to order. May we begin? Deputy Supervisor Munson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I guess there's a lot I could announce in terms of public announcements, but I think that most of it has already been announced on the town Facebook page, the town website, my town supervisor Facebook page, having to do with the steps taken for the COVID-19 situation. I just wanted to say that we have tentatively scheduled with the village to have a public hearing on the active transportation plan on the 16th of April. Now, given the current situation, that is subject to change, and these arrangements were put in place before everything really came to a head on coping with the virus. But you can make a note of that, and again, we just have to see how the situation works out in the weeks immediately ahead. We have a presentation tonight. The chair of our planning board is here, John Limbeck, and John asked to be able to address the board tonight, so without objection, I would put John on first.
This is Kathy and Stephanie.
Oh,
You want
I haven't
to
seen
talk
this.
for yourself? Yes. It's from John. It's just comments.
Good evening. John Limbeck, 62 State Street. I am the chairman of the planning board. And I did ask Supervisor Smith if I could speak tonight about something that I'm fairly passionate about. And I've given all of the board members a copy. And basically, over the past weekend, I participated in 5 interviews with town residents who had expressed an interest in serving on one of the town's volunteer boards. All of the applicants that I spoke with were interested in more than one boards, and this is the second opportunity that I've had to interact with the different board members for the purpose of interviewing potential candidates. And I think the process has merit for a couple of reasons. First, it identifies town residents who are inclined to serve on a board, and we all know that volunteerism is not in vogue right now, so it's nice to have that deep bench. It also identifies specific interests and skill sets which can be critical when you're selecting an individual to serve on a particular board. Now, based on the applicants that I interviewed, I couldn't identify any candidates who would be more qualified or better suited to serve than the 2 planning board members that can be reappointed. That's Paula Liebschitz and Kevin Morabito. They've been active and invested in the applications to the planning board, and they've demonstrated a complete understanding, I think, of the issues involved in the applications we receive. They're both very capable of hearing what the issues are from both the applicant and the surrounding neighbors, as well as applying the applicable town regulations. This ability has greatly assisted the planning board in rendering fair decisions with appropriate terms and conditions, and the diversity that Paul and Kevin bring to the board is appreciated by all of my members. And it would be my hearty recommendation that you recognize Paula and Kevin for their abilities and skills and reappoint them to the planning board. And again, I appreciate the ability to speak tonight. If there's anything I can answer, I would be glad to do that.
I just have a quick question. So for both Paula and Kevin, is this their second term? This would be their second term?
Yes.
Or it was. So they've only served 1 term so far?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
All
I agree,
right.
John.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
We begin tonight with a presentation from John Schroth, who operates East Rochester Community News, ERCN TV, which handles all of our video of the town board meetings. That includes the video of the meetings that appears on TV 12, the community access channel, and also includes the on-demand streaming that we've had in place for several years that lets people see town board meetings whenever the time suits them. And also Joy Brown is here, our IT department head, to comment on the live streaming of meetings, which is the one thing we don't do right now. So, John, would you like to begin?
So I've typed up a bunch of stuff because I'm not great at public speaking. I'm used to being behind the camera shooting, not in front of it. So, but thanks for having me in, and I'd like to share with you at least my background, my experience. So to start out, I'm John Schroth. I graduated from RIT almost 40 years ago in audiovisual communication and production. My entire career has been in the audiovisual field. I'm a 15-year volunteer for our local cable access station, and for the past 8 years I've been the director. I also own a full-time business based in East Rochester, preserving and digitizing large audiovisual media collections for businesses as educational institutions. So I've been working with media my whole life. On a personal note, I became a resident of Pittsburgh back in the mid-'60s. I've been a homeowner in Pittsburgh for almost 30 years, and I have a vested interest in this community and in these broadcasts. So I'd like to start out with pointing that we've done past analytics on video on demand for town board meetings, our own for Pittsburgh. And for Pittsburgh, we have past analytics that show we only have about 4 to 8 people that log into our hosting site to watch a Pittsburgh on demand town board meeting, okay? And that's each month. Half of these are town of Pittsburgh employees. And we know that because we can trace the service provider and account. So you have about half the people who do log in are the Pittsburgh employees who are interested in seeing what happened. Video on demand lets viewers watch anytime. That's convenient, unlike a scheduled live stream where it starts and stops at a specific time and day. So you have to ask yourselves how often and how many people will actually use this live stream. For the money and the time investment it will take to properly set up a live streaming video. You know, maybe once in a lifetime crisis like we have now, people want to see the town board or are interested in what's going on, what the town board is saying. But the data shows us that in normal times, people just aren't as interested as people might think everybody is. And there's not been a high demand. The technology of professionally streaming a live broadcast is not new to me, okay? Experience has taught us that if we were going to do a live stream, it shouldn't be with consumer equipment such as a smartphone or using a free service such as Facebook or YouTube. I personally set up the streaming of church services for St. Jerome in East Rochester, and I did that several years ago. The amount of problems we encountered by using a free service such as YouTube or Facebook eventually forced us to give up this option and seek a professional paid service. Most other churches in the area have encountered the same issue and use a paid professional service which is more dependable. Again, it's live. You got one shot, okay? Telview is our current streaming provider. They are the biggest professional streaming media service provider in the country. We've been using their service now for over 10 years with no interruptions, no glitches, and fantastic customer support. They offer a way to broadcast our content to our own Roku channel. I don't know if you folks realize that, but you can watch this on TV through Roku, all right? They offer a cutting-edge closed captioning service. They offer a higher level of security. It's also available at the exact same location that Pittsburgh viewers have gone to now for several years to watch the video on demand and Spectrum stream content. Using Telview for live streaming of Pittsburgh's town board meetings would not incur additional monthly fees. Although it's a paid service, we're already paying for it. There's only a modest setup charge to add a live streaming portal to their current infrastructure and our current media players. So where you go to see on demand right now, you have an option for Pittsburgh live stream right there. People are used to going there. So it's an easy way to find it. The Telview offerings and the camera equipment have advanced since the last time I researched our options for live streaming of the Pittsburgh board meetings. The cost has gone down. A new model JVC video camera that offers real-time encoding in a streaming format to the internet is approximately $2,600 and would replace the camera you've been using. These cameras will record to an SD card. Spencer and Shelley, that's terrible. I'm sorry. Spencer and Shelley will like that because they won't have to switch tapes. Okay? And it'll record it as a file for broadcast to Spectrum and our own on-demand video section. And at the same time, it has a built-in encoder and it encodes the video to an accepted streaming format for output to live stream. So it does everything all at one time with one camera, and we're not mucking around with a whole ton of equipment. All right. You would need a fixed URL, a hardwired connection to the internet, and we've talked to Joy, and she can easily provide that. You're eventually going to need a new camera anyway, because the digital tape format that we're using now, mini DV, is getting harder and harder to come by, simply put. So even if the lack of public demand for streaming doesn't justify getting a new camera, eventually you're going to need one if you're going to continue to broadcast on PEG TV. The on-demand streaming you've been doing for a number of years. The live stream would be accessible via a live TelView portal, as I said before, as well as a live Roku portal. We already paid for the Roku several years ago with a one-time payment of about $2,500, so that's all taken care of. You don't have to renew it every year. The live stream for the town board meetings would be at the same internet connection as I discussed before, so viewers don't have to find a new location. Now, I'll get into it just briefly. Closed captioning is something that everybody looks at today and they just think, oh, it happens automatically. The TVs type whatever. Any professional closed captioning is still done by humans, okay? So although you might think that the technology has come so far that closed captioning is happening almost automatically all the time, that's not so. TelView has one of the best cutting-edge closed captioning systems. It's not perfect, but it's more accurate than most, okay? And with TelView, we have the capability of taking the video on-demand content. Once I finish editing the file, I can send it up to TelView and request it be closed captioning that specific video, and it will come back less than 24 hours, all closed captioned and ready to go, all right? They use IBM Watson to do this, a special side version of that. And the costs are very reasonable, whereas you would pay hundreds of dollars to close caption an hour-long board meeting in the past. Right now, it's $15 per hour of content caption, and the costs are purchased in 100-hour blocks for $1,500. The closed captioning for live streaming is not available yet, but through TelView and only TelView, it's projected to be available by the end of the third quarter of this year, okay? So that's a really big deal, and no one else has that. Automatic closed captioning is not perfect. As I said before, it's approximately 85 to 90% accurate. Closed captioning of the live stream would be an additional $15 an hour, purchased in $1,500 blocks, just like the video on demand. Now, the closed captioning costs, at least for now, wouldn't be shared with East Rochester because my town board doesn't want closed captioning right now. That may change, all right? There's a setup fee, as I said before, for the live streaming channel. Estimated max is around $1,000. So the total cost, if you want to do live streaming professionally the right way without issues or problems, you've got a camera for $2,600, you got extra batteries, cards, and a card reader for $450, setup fee for $1,000, and then if you want the closed captioning on top of that for video on demand right now, you're looking at a $1,500 block. So without closed captioning, it's $4,050. With closed captioning, it's $5,550. Now, analytics would be available for the new service for the streaming, so we can track the number of viewers watching the live stream. And if you approve live streaming of the board meetings and the new camera is ordered, assuming it's in stock because it's fairly new to the market, it would take about a month and a half, worst case scenario, to implement. I would be implementing it, and right now, maybe I shouldn't say this on air, I get paid a small stipend from the town village, but most of my time is volunteer time. So I would have to find a time to come in, set everything up. I got to learn how to work the camera, train the staff, and then I got to schedule a day with TelView and Joy all together online to get everything set up and locked down solid so we don't have a problem. So, worst case scenario, a month and a half out. I'd like to say it could be sooner than that, all right? To summarize, if we want a live stream, TelView is a rock solid solution, all right? It's never gone down in 10 years of streaming. and it's dedicated to broadcasting content for cable access stations all over the country. They offer the ability to closed caption content and additional portal options that we can also purchase. We purchased the Roku. They also have Apple TV and Amazon Prime available as well for our own channel. So there's a lot of options these folks have. Are there any questions?
John, if I could, you were talking about, you said that something that captured my interest, that we're going to need to replace the camera we have soon. Can you explain, just go in a little more detail? It wasn't clear to me why that's so.
A number of things. We have a total of 7 cameras that are all the same model. They've been wonderful. We've had them for 12 years, 14 years now. But the tape format that we tape to is running out. And I mean sooner than later. We purchased the last known stock that we could get of, 300 to 400 tapes, and that's pretty much lights out. So we're going to have to make a move fairly soon, and within the next 6 months probably. The other thing is the camera is standard def, all right? And the third thing is all these cameras that we have are going to need some major maintenance because we've had them for so long.
I see. Okay. I don't know. Before we ask Joy Brown if she has any additional comments, I'll ask the board if they have questions for John. I mean, if we have to replace this camera soon anyway, I think we should go ahead and do it, get the camera, then we're set up for live streaming with only marginal additional cost. And this is a very different proposition from every time we've looked at this before.
Yeah.
I had just one question on the on-demand analytics. I know some residents view our board meetings not through the town website, but through some other app that lets them watch town board meetings in almost any town in the country.
Okay.
Are those included in these analytics, or are these analytics only through the town website?
That's a good question. I can't answer for sure, all right?
Okay.
But the new provider, the new service we would have, from what I'm told, we can even see what kind of computer they were using. So at that point, we may have some better analytics because we've got more accurate data to work with, but I can't promise that. I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay, well, that's helpful. So just for everyone to know that, that the 4 to 8 a month is probably higher if the apps
it could be.
I know it's through people's smart TVs.
What's the app?
I don't recall the name of it.
People were out watching Audrey Johnson's Pittsburgh Personalities 4 to 1 over the town board meeting every month. So,
I believe it.
Yeah. Which I commend Audrey for. I'd just like to say we had this plan a long time ago before Bill ever came on board, and Bill said, I love the fact we're going to cover Pittsburgh history. Yes, you have my support, go for it. And we have got so many wonderful interviews by people who have now passed away, all right? And it's too bad they've passed away, but we have their story now of Pittsburgh. How wonderful is that? And for me to be almost a 6-year resident of Pittsburgh, that's fantastic. So,
any other questions from the board?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. So once this is up and running, once the live stream is done, it'll still be archived the way it is today, so that somebody can go back and take a look at it if they missed it.
Yes, absolutely. Right now, I promise Shelley, we try and keep the town board meetings up for at least 3 months on demand. We've been doing 5 to 6. Okay? As long as server space is available, I try to keep them up as long as we can. And then on top of that, once it goes away on demand, I have a DVD and a file of that. So 3 years from now, if you call me up and you say, John, I need a copy of this board meeting, I got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I have to do that for FCC. I have to keep a copy of every single thing we've put on air so that we can show that to the FCC if there's any problems or questions that come up.
For up to 3 years? Or 7?
Well, we keep things forever.
Forever, okay. Gotcha. So, one question in terms of, you mentioned that a lot of the time you spend is volunteer time. You bring a level of expertise just listening to your promo that I value. And so I guess what I'd like to ask you is, if you were to put together what it would cost us for you to do this work where we pay you for it as opposed to just volunteering your time, would that be something you'd be open to, and what would it cost?
Into what respect?
In other words, the work you'll be doing, you mentioned that you may be spending a lot of sort of volunteer time to do this. If we were to pay you for that work, as opposed to you just volunteering your time, how much time and what would you charge us for something?
You're nice to offer. If it doesn't get into more than I think it's going to get into, I'm happy to volunteer my time.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Yeah.
Just from an equity perspective, you have a tremendous background that we appreciate, and so I just...
It sounds like it.
Yes, I just want you to know that I would be we're going to spend $5,000 to open up live streaming for our entire town. That's very inexpensive considering the value this will represent. When we combine this, by the way, with marketing it to the whole town to say, hey, you can now sit down and have dinner and watch your board meeting from your phone or your iPad, I think a lot more people will get into it, and also it may make it a little bit more interactive. So to me, this is a huge step of transparency, and I just don't want you to get lost. I don't like, as a former consultant, I don't like using people's time without paying them for it, particularly when they're using expertise. So I just want you to know that's not lost on me.
Look, we've had a relationship now since Bill's come on board that we never had before.
Yes.
Before, it was a total separation. Bill knew East Rochester because Bill was our county legislator. He was that. If you watch and go back to all the St. Nicola Man of the Year awards from 10, 15 years ago or more,
Yes.
Bill was there at every single one, and he liked the idea of community access TV, public government education access TV. He was in support of it, so he embraced it right away, and I appreciate that. All right, and the relationship has been great. If you ask Joy Brown, we've been able to bring the quality of the Pittsford broadcast way up. And not only that, we've taken a lot off Joy's shoulders. She used to encode every single show herself, and it would take hours, and then try and push it up with an old computer because there was no support for Joy because they didn't really care about the community access. And so she was left floundering by herself. And at the end of the day, as soon as Bill Smith came on board, I felt like it was a totally different world. And I was happy about that because I'm a resident of Pittsford. And I was embarrassed to see the quality then, and I wanted to bring it up. So I'm happy to put my time into it because I think there's a benefit.
Thank you.
John, tell me again, what would the cost be all-inclusive if we included the closed captioning, which I think we would want if we did this?
So it'd be $55.50 and then $1,500 a year. It's probably not even going to be that because it's $1,500 for a 100-hour block, and I don't think you're going to use a full 100-hour block in a year. And they roll it over, just like your phone time. They roll it over every year.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion that the town board approve the purchase of the new camera and the other elements which would make it possible for us to add live streaming to our already, the streaming service we have already and the broadcast service we have already for the town board.
A second.
Can I ask a question?
You may, of course.
How would we access the live streaming through a mobile device?
Same way you do the video on demand, okay? Telview offers multi-tiered encoding so that you've got something that plays well on a smartphone or a tablet or a computer. So if you log into, I tell our East Rochester residents log into the homepage of the Town Village of East Rochester, and you can see a thing that says click here to watch ERCN, which is now, it used to be East Rochester Community News. I've now dubbed it East Side Rochester Cable Network, because we're also, if you don't realize, we're also supplying a feed for Parrington and Fairport, because they shuttered their station 4 years ago, and we made a deal with Fairport that we would pick up their viewership and we would run any meetings that they wanted to submit. So, we're the biggest cable access area in Monroe County, let's say. And I'm proud to say we do it with mostly volunteers, which is really nice.
No,
yeah.
I have a deep appreciation for the work that you guys are doing. I thank you for this
We have fun. We have fun.
But just back to the question. So I would go to the town website somehow.
And you go to the
then
town
click on it.
website, and Shelley could tell you because she's the communications person. On the Town of Pittsford website, there's got to be something on the homepage that shows you.
Yeah, we have the right-hand side tabs, the small side tabs. There's one that looks like a little television. That's our TV 12 page.
Yeah.
And then on there's a link to On Demand, and there's a link to the schedule for the week. There's several different links on there.
Right.
And when I use my laptop setup, that's wonderful. But when I use my mobile, it's very hard to get to.
Yeah, that's an issue with our website and our mobile, how it looks on a mobile device, and that's another issue that Joy and I have been.
Is there a way to provide people with an actual link that works, that'll go directly to it without hitting that like table of contents page?
I think it would take it directly to your TeleView portal, wouldn't it? You'd still have to be clicked through to get to Pittsburgh shows and choose, but I think you should be able to.
Right.
Like if we advertised a simple website that people could link to, like you get the newsletter and you touch the link and it pops open, oh, there's the live feed. Would it be that simple?
Yeah, so that would be, we could put a link in the e-news and also, it would link directly. So if you know that link already, for example, it might already be in the e-news, but I'll have to double check. A lot of times we direct people to the page only to explain what's there, because if you just show up at that link and you see East Rochester, you might think you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So that's more of a case of educating folks to say, this is a partnership with East Rochester, this is their portal, Pittsburgh things are here.
It's our portal.
Go directly to Pittsburgh, click here.
Yeah.
But that's a simple enough thing for a link in the e-news.
I would assume, Joy, that you could say click here for live stream and it could go straight there, right?
Yeah.
On that end, just one real small thing. I'm wondering if when they're labeled, those links for the videos, instead of saying TOP, if it could say Town of Pittsford.
We can, but when I do that, it's so long that on some people's thing won't see the date.
Right.
See what I'm saying? And that's why I abbreviated it so you can see the date, because I thought that people most likely are going to search by the date. Let me see if I change that, if it's going to make the date go off the side.
Okay.
And see if
Because I occasionally push out the link on my social media feed, and I always sort of explain to them that they need to look at that the TOP is Town of Pittsburgh. Because they wouldn't necessarily know that. But that would be great if you could adjust
like
that label.
PFD or something where you look at it, you go, oh, Pittsburgh.
Fire department,
We
have a motion and a second?
Just one last quick question. Is there a way to structure the hierarchy for those links to where there would be a Pittsburgh, East Rochester, so it's separate? Is there a way for you to do that?
There are playlists. So when you go to this media player, your first option is you can choose play the Spectrum feed so that you can watch what's playing on Spectrum, There's also a tab for playlists. So that drops down, and each category has its own section. So Town of Pittsburgh board meetings, they have their own section where all the board meetings are inside that. Pittsburgh events has their own section. Pittsburgh personalities has their own section. So I try to contain like shows together from the same town. So they're all categorized together in the same folder. And so, when you hit that and you go there, you'll be able to find the show. And they're sorted in order by date. First one, last one is first on the row, because it'd be the most of interest. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I will modify the motion I made to say for an amount not to exceed $6,000 inclusive of cost of, I think I got these elements right, camera, setup fee, accessories like the batteries, and closed captioning service.
6,000 won't cover it.
You don't think so?
No, because he said with closed captioning it was $5,550 plus $1,500 closed.
No, closed captioning is $1,500.
Right.
So $5,500 does or does not include the closed captioning?
5, yeah. 3, 5. No, 5,500 should, let's add it up. Cameras, 2,600. Battery and card readers, 450, so that's $3,000, a little bit more. 4 for the setup fee, and
Okay, so you're
1,500 for the
including
closed
that.
captioning.
Okay,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that does cover it.
So for an amount not to exceed 6,000, including the elements I just described. And Town Clerk, we will
Kevin still seconds.
refine this if we need to.
Yes.
And we have a second?
There is a second from Beckford.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Beckford?
Yes.
Koshkar?
Yes.
Munsinger?
Yes.
Townsend?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes. John, thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
You're
IT
welcome.
Director Joy Brown, thank you for being on hand for this
Thanks, Joy.
tonight.
Yes, thank
And I know
you.
you have another agenda item we'll be talking about in a bit. Okay, Board.
Minutes.
Is there any member of the public present who wishes to comment on the minutes? If none, Board, you've had a chance to see the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any proposed additions or changes?
I just have one slight amendment on page 5. At the very bottom, under 19th Amendment commemoration, it should be that the next step is for Deputy Supervisor Munsinger and Council Member Stephanie Townsend to meet with community volunteers. Kate was setting up the meeting, but we were both at the meeting.
Okay.
So,
I'll get you in
the amendment, I presume you move it, I will second it.
Sorry, one moment. Beckford?
Yes.
Koshkar?
Yes.
Munsinger?
Yes.
Townsend?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes. And now on the approval of the minutes as amended, I'll move that.
I'll second.
Beckford?
Yes.
Koshkar?
Yes.